Columbia School of Journalism, welcome to Global Journalist. I'm David Reed. A gold mining project in Romania has provoked the biggest street protests since the 1989 revolution. A Canadian company wants to mine Europe's largest gold deposit. It's located deep beneath an ancient mountain town, Rosia Montana. Rosia Montana Gold Corporation says its mining operation would create 3,000 jobs and provide more than $2 billion in dividends, royalties, and taxes. Hundreds of Romanians have demonstrated their support for the project because it would reduce poverty in the northern region, at least in the short term. But more than 10,000 Romanians have been marching in the streets on weekends to demonstrate their opposition. They believe the company would cause an environmental catastrophe by leveling the mountains and using tons of cyanide every year to extract gold from rock. Freelance reporter Calin Cosmaciuc is in Romania's capital, Bucharest. He'll share his insights about this contentious project. In the second half of our program, we'll hear about protests against gold mining projects by Canadian companies in other countries around the world. But first, World Watch with Raymond Tungakar.
Thanks, David.
The U.S. has announced plans to curb military aid to Egypt over its crackdown on supporters of former President Mohamed Morsi. In a statement issued on Wednesday, State Department spokesperson Jen Psaki said the U.S. will continue to work with the interim Egyptian government and Congress, but would place restrictions on certain large-scale military systems and cash assistance. The Egyptian government criticized the move, with a foreign ministry spokesperson saying the country, quote, will not surrender to American pressure. In Brazil, more than 10,000 people gathered in Rio de Janeiro in support of a wage increase for teachers in public schools. What started as a peaceful demonstration became violent overnight. Banks and buses were set on fire, and police used tear gas to contain the protest. Teachers have been demanding salary increases for months, as well as better working conditions. Nearly 600,000 people fled their homes in southeast China as a typhoon struck the coast with 94-mile-per-hour winds. At least 5 people have been killed in the storm. Rail services and flights in the region have also been canceled.
And that's it for World Watch.
Freelance reporter Calin Cosmaciuc is in Romania's capital, Bucharest. Calin, you started covering this story 2 years ago when you went to the Rosia Montana village. What does this area look like, and what do the people there think about this project?
It's a nice area in the Carpathian Mountains. It was all the time was a mining area, but you can also see very nice landscapes in the area, like in the whole area of the Carpathian Mountains. The village used to survive relying on the mining. This also happened during Ceausescu time, before '89. But right now, the people in the area are waiting for these new projects to be opened. As you know, the project is not open, it's blocked. And people in the area, it looks like most of them are supporting the project. You can see in the area a lot of people already working for the company. You can see them wearing uniforms, and but there are also some other people who are against the gold mine, and one of them is credited to be the main starter of the opposition against the gold mine project.
And he's one of the 20. He's among one of the 27 families that are refusing to move.
Yes, he looked like the leader of these families. He's a farmer. His name is Eugen David. He used to work in a mine before '89, but now he is a farmer, and he's saying that he doesn't want to sell his property because he wants to do agriculture in the area, and it's not correct to be obliged to move on to another place.
What do the opponents say the dangers of this mining projects are?
There are two main issues around this mining project. One of them is the use of the cyanide to extract the gold, the technological process. And the other is that the mine, if ever would be open, the mine will be an open pit mine.
They would level the mountains.
Yes. there are some Romanian reports made by scientists saying that the area would be ruined, would be very damaged.
Okay. And these opposition has spread around the country, and there have been these mass protests in Bucharest and other cities. Could you describe how big these protests are?
It started in the end of August, when the government decided to send a special law to the parliament, and people were very upset and are very upset. People in Romania, the main protests are in Bucharest. Maybe 10,000 people are marching Bucharest every Sunday or Saturday. There were also some, maybe up to 10,000 in some moments. This is one of the biggest protests happened in Bucharest in the last years. This kind of protest is also in other Romanian cities.
And what has been the government's reaction to these protests? Have they backpedaled on approving this mine?
The government right now is, I think, is just trying to save some time. This special law for the gold mine is not in the regular parliamentarian debate right now, but is in a special committee where people are discussing about the project, but mainly the government is backing the project. When this protest started, and when the law was sent to the parliament, the Prime Minister, Victor Ponta, said that as a member of government, as the head of the government, he is supporting the project, but on the other hand, he has serious doubts, and as a member of, as an MP, as a member of the parliament, as a lawmaker, he is not supporting the project. This was quite strange.
Uh-huh. And I guess I know there was a cyanide spill catastrophe at another gold mine in Romania about 13 years ago. Is that also part of the reason people are opposed to this? They're worried that might happen again?
I just read the news from Hungary, where the neighboring Hungary, where people were very affected by this spill 13 years ago, and the Hungarians went to the streets several days ago to protest against the gold mine, being afraid that this kind of accident would repeat.
Right. So the opposition is spreading to the neighboring country that was polluted by the previous cyanide spill.
Yes.
Now,
right.
There are other opposition points are that this mountain underneath the village is the home of two protected geologic sites. Can you explain that?
It was started mining in the area 2,000 years ago. The Roman Empire was extracting gold from the Carpathian Mountains exactly in the area. And it's not very qualified to speak about the archaeological facts, but I know that is a mine that can be visited right there in this moment, and this is some people, they wanted this place in the area to be part of the UNESCO heritage.
Mm-hmm. Describe how big this mining project is.
Official figures show that could be one of the biggest gold mine projects in Europe. The company said that they want to extract they are there 300 tons of gold and also 1,500 tons of silver. This the estimations are that the net profit would be $11 billion for the company and $3 billion for the Romanian government, because the Romanian government is a shareholder in the company with 20%.
Who else is going to make money on this? Who are the other shareholders?
As they are reported by media, they are shareholders from United States and Israel.
Okay.
But the company is a Canadian one. It is listed at the Toronto Stock Exchange.
Okay. Well, since you've been covering this and watching these protests, what's your prediction? What do you think is going to happen?
I think it's my opinion is that the protest also is mainly about the gold mine, also collecting some frustrations of the people in Romania from other reasons like lack of trust in the politicians and the social problems that are right now in Romania. So I believe that the protest will continue in the next weeks.
And you're saying that these people who are upset about other problems in the country are joining the protests?
Both by this problem of the gold mine and the general situation in Romania. But still, my impression is that this protest is not an usual protest for the so-called working class, but is mainly another kind of people. I saw a lot of people who look like students, but also a lot of people that look like having good jobs in Romania. And maybe the working class is actually protesting in the Rosia Montana village. They are backing the working class in the village is backing the project, while here in Bucharest, another kind of protester.
And if the legislature does pass a law that allows this mining, do you think there'll be political repercussions? Do you think that the Prime Minister might be in danger in upcoming elections?
You mean if they reject the gold mine, or
if they support the gold mine project?
Okay, here I think might be a problem because the Romanian president said that the law is unconstitutional because you cannot make a special law for one company. You have just to make a law for the whole industry. So this is another problem that you discussed here in Romania about this special law.
All right. Well, this seems
I really don't know what will happen with this law, if finally will be a debate or not.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a fascinating story to continue to cover, and I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the invitation.
Okay. Bye, Colin. Before we continue our discussion, I want to remind everyone that you can view or listen to this program anytime by downloading our podcasts at globaljournalist.org. You can also find interesting articles, photos, and interviews related to our program on our website. Please send us questions or comments via globaljournalist@kbi.org or our Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at globaljorn. Santiago Ortega is an assistant professor at a university in Northwest Colombia in the Department of Civil, Environmental, and Industrial Engineering. Liezel Hill is a reporter for Bloomberg News, specializing in commodities and industries. Welcome to Global Journalist.
Hello, David.
Thanks, David.
Hello. Now, Santiago, when you were a visiting fellow in global journalism at the University of Toronto this spring, you wrote about protests against gold mining projects by Canadian companies that took place in your home country and in other countries around the world. Let's start with the protest against the Eco Oro Minerals project in Bucaramanga, a city of 1 million people in northern Colombia. What caused your countrymen to take the streets there?
Well, Bucaramanga, it's one of the largest cities in Colombia. It's one of the most important cities. And right now, in the whole country, there is this huge mining boom. The president has defined mining as one of the leading forces that will drive the economy of the country. So, being in the Andes, we have a vast mining resource, not only gold but coal and just a bunch of different minerals. But gold mining, Colombia in particular, has strong problems regarding fresh water. Gold mining has uses cyanide, uses mercury, has large environmental impacts, and the people in Bucaramanga are particularly worried about what's going on because there is these regions called the Páramo de Santurban. It's a unique ecosystem of the Andes. It's like high altitude grasslands that have lots of water. And Oro has a mining project really near this water producing region for Bucaramanga. So the people in Bucaramanga are very concerned that the operation of Oro will become a menace to their freshwater supplies. That region is also a very dry region. There are regions in Colombia with more rain, more precipitation, and more freshwater availability. But Santander and Bucaramanga, the northeastern part of Colombia, it's fairly dry. So freshwater availability is a huge issue there.
And what happened when I guess there's a pretty large protest march this spring? Can you tell us about what happened?
Actually, that's the third protest march that size that had happened in the last few years. The Icoro project is not a new project. They've been around for over 15 years or so, exploring and defining the project. But on one of the stages, the manager of the regional aqueduct found out that there could be a menace to the freshwater supply, and then a group of engineers and a group of citizens started thinking and began protesting on the Paramos, protesting on protecting the whole ecosystem. Right now, this has been the third march, and different political pulses have been happening. Some part of the Paramo became a protected area. Right now, mining in this kind of ecosystems was made illegal in Colombia. So right now, the main focus and the main problem is the limits of this ecosystem are not well defined yet, and everybody's waiting for the Ministry of Environment to do so, to see if the mine could actually be on this ecosystem or not, if it could operate or not. So everybody's pretty concerned of what could happen.
So they're waiting for the environmental impact study?
It's not quite an environmental impact study, because the environmental impact study regards a project. In this case, this is a regional zoning project.
Okay.
So if the place where the project is located on, actually it's on this protected or it's this sensitive ecosystem.
And what are a few other examples of Canadian mining and exploration companies inciting protests in other countries?
There is this huge mining. There was this very large process in Romania. There is this mining region that there was going to be. I don't quite remember the name of the company, but it's on the Transylvania region that was going to exploit gold on a large scale with open pit mining. And also Barrick Gold has been involved in several scandals in different places of Central and South America, including Peru, including El Salvador and such.
Okay, and Greece? Was there one?
Greece, yes. There have been some gold mining protests in Greece as well.
In your story that you did, you mentioned Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Dominican Republic, Slovakia, Romania, and Israel. It's quite a lineup.
Yeah, the Israel side is not gold mining. I think it's another mineral that they are exploiting there. But the thing is that when I was researching for my story, I talked to Mr. Ramsey from Mining Watch, and I was trying to find out what were the reasons that there were so many Canadian mining involved in scandals overseas.
Right.
And the explanation he was able to give me was that Canada has the system set up to have most of the junior mining companies either located either in Toronto or in Vancouver. And these junior mining companies, they're not as careful as the really large mining ones, and they do more exploration all over the world. And so, as they have a larger volume and they're a key player in mining activities and in medium-sized and small mining activities, they are involved in more scandals and protests because people on developing countries don't think mining is a very attractive way to develop.
Right, and Mining Watch gave another reason for the favorable environment for these high-risk speculative investments, the kind that drives these international mineral explorations. And he said there are no mechanisms to hold Canadian companies overseas accountable for their social and environmental policies. The United States, on the other hand, has a law that allows foreign citizens to bring American companies to U.S. courts for abuses committed in a foreign country. What are other reasons for Canada's prominence in these gold mining ventures?
Well, what Mining Watch said about these mechanisms is that they are not forced to do any kind of CSR on their operations overseas. This was proposed in the Parliament, in the Canadian Parliament, about 2.5 years ago by the Liberals. It was this bill called Bill C-300, and they actually asked these companies to comply with CSR standards as they would do in Canada. But the mining lobby thought that could be not very attractive for business, so it was defeated on the Parliament by 6 votes or so.
Okay. And Liezel, why do Canadian companies tend to be more international?
It's a good question, David. I think, and not an easy one to answer.
Right.
Obviously, there are a lot of mining companies based here in Canada. I mean, if you look at the gold industry, there's more than 700 companies around the world that are either mining or looking for gold, and of those, just shy of half are based in Canada. So I guess just simply by the proportion of companies that are based here in Canada, you are going to see a lot of Canadian companies involved in the projects that you see around the world, and obviously the gold mining industry is an international one. I think that's probably the essence of it.
And in Toronto, in particular, that's where a lot of the trades take place. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, I think certainly in the industry, a lot of people would agree that Toronto is sort of the mining finance capital of the world. And I think Santiago referred to the fact that in mining, you have two main classes of companies. The first is the companies, like he mentioned, Barrick, the world's biggest gold mining company, that already have operations, that are already producing gold. And that means, obviously, that they're generating revenue. And then the second section are those companies like, I guess, Eco Oro, and you mentioned Gabriel Resources that has a project in Romania, and hundreds of others that don't have a mine that's producing any gold yet. They're just these speculative companies that believe they found something or they're looking for something, and because of that, they don't have any revenue. So that means they have to find money somewhere for paying their staff, paying themselves, keeping the lights on. Never mind, obviously exploring their projects, whether it's taking a drill out onto the land to drill down and see what minerals they have and so on. So the upshot of all of that is they need to, generally the main way of doing it is selling shares. And Toronto does seem to be the place. The Toronto Stock Exchange and the Toronto, the TSX Venture Exchange, where a lot of these smaller companies are listed, that is the place where a lot of the world's mining finance, and especially equity finance, which when they're selling shares, that's where a lot of that takes place. So it makes sense, of course, for those companies to have their head offices in Toronto or Vancouver.
And there have been some problems with this system, right? I think there was that Bre-X scandal. Can you explain what that was?
There there was. The Bre-X was probably one of the most famous stories in the mining industry. It was a company that said it found a project, appeared to have found a really rich gold discovery, and the shares shot up, and it turned out at the end of the day that it wasn't maybe necessarily what it seemed, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. But since then, the Canadian regulators have taken a lot of steps and introduced new rules and regulations about how companies conduct themselves and how they disclose what they're doing and what they think they're doing and what they think they've found to prevent something like that from happening.
And that was about 13 years ago?
More or less, yeah.
And Liezel, beyond the civil and legal roadblocks, what other challenges do the gold mining companies face now?
There are, particularly in the gold industry, it is a tough time for companies. I mean, you mentioned the time of Bre-X, and funnily enough, several people this year have said to me when we ask, how's the environment out there, how's business, people say, it really hasn't been this bad for the industry since around the time that the Bre-X scandal exploded. So just to take a bit of a step back and look at where things are, the gold price has been rising relentlessly. For the last 12 years, we've seen 12 consecutive years of increases in the gold price. And so it's been a pretty good time to be a gold miner and even, to be someone who thinks they have a gold project that maybe one day will be a mine. But this year, it's been quite a different story. We've seen the gold price has fallen, I checked just before we started, about 22% since the start of 2013. And so that means, first of all, those companies that are producing, their profits are smaller. Some of them may not even be profitable, depending on how much it costs for them to produce at their mines. And then for that second group of companies that I mentioned, the ones that don't have revenue yet, it just makes it that much more difficult for them to go out and find some money and convince investors to put up some cash to help them to go out and explore their projects and maybe even build a mine when there's all this uncertainty going on around what's going on with the price of gold and what's going to happen with gold. So it definitely is a difficult time for them.
And Santiago, so it sounds like if the price of gold keeps going down, I think Liezel said 22% since the start of the year, which is pretty incredible. I guess that might cause some changes in the environment in Colombia, Eco Oro Minerals in particular. What do you think about this issue?
Well, probably. The thing is that there's still, even though the price has been going down every day, there is more and more interest in gold mining in Colombia at different scales, either really large scale or really small scale. At the time, well, companies do say that it's a difficult time for them. Exploration and production of gold hasn't stopped yet. The gold mining companies here in Colombia still have very, very attractive revenues and stuff like that. And in Colombia in particular, where you talk about small mining or really handcrafted mining or small operations far away, there is this really nasty issue on paramilitary groups and guerrilla groups using gold as a trade transaction. So even though the prices may be low for the Canadian standards, here in Colombia, there's still being business as usual being done, and more exploration and more mining titles. It doesn't seem to stop.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people have been coveting gold for almost as long as since it's been first discovered.
Yeah.
We'll have to leave it there. Santiago and Liezel, thank you so much for spending the time to talk with us. Global Journalist is directed by Travis McMillan, audio by Pat Akers. Raymond Tungakar is our executive producer. Victoria Mitskute was this week's lead producer. Please join us again next week for another Global Journalist. I'm David Reed.